Greetings gastronauts, this is KeefCooks, I'm Keef, and today I'm going to do a British version of an Italian classic. I'm going to make a British style lasagna. So before we start, I'm not claiming any kind of authenticity for this, because it's one of those things where there's just not a standard recipe. In fact, there's two distinct versions in Italy, and then there's all the subdivisions of people in different towns, streets, houses, all do it differently. And don't get me started on ricotta or meatballs or Italian sausage, whatever that is. I'm going to do what I think is probably the basic British version, but with some added bells and whistles just to make it a bit more fancy. Let's get on with it. I'm going to make the meaty tomatoey sauce first. So I've got 500 grams of minced beef. That's actually 20% fat, because fat is flavour. I've got 150 grams of bacon. This happens to be cooking bacon, which is just off-cuts and it's really cheap. You could use lardons or you could use pancetta if you want. I've got a 400 gram can of chopped tomatoes, a medium onion, a carrot, a stick of celery, and a squidge of tomato puree, 250 ml of red wine, teaspoon each of oregano and basil, and salt and pepper to taste. Is that everything? Oh, and some beef stock, half a litre of beef stock. Right, let's, we need to chop these things up. So basically we're starting off with like a French style classic mirepoix, which is finely chopped, diced onion, carrot and celery. So chop them, dice them as fine as you can. And most Brit cooks wouldn't include the celery and the carrot, but they would include the onion. But I just think the celery and the carrot give it a lot more depth of flavour. And then top and tail the carrot. And you can either chop it finely like that, or you can grate it, which is quite a bit easier. And basically the aim is to get these things so small that after 2 or 3 hours of cooking, they'll disappear, but their flavour won't. And finally, the onion, top and tail, chop in half and peel. And get your magic knife. Now I need to cut the bacon into little bits. Now we'll get over to the stove and start cooking. I'm using my cast iron casserole thing, because I still love it. You want something sturdy and possibly oven proof, because you might finish it off in the oven. I'm not going to, because of the cost of heating the oven these days is just insane. So I'm going to cook it on the stove top. Put the heat on medium, couple of tablespoons of oil, and you want this on low heat, and then add the onion, carrot and celery, and just let those sweat for about 10 minutes. And you can put a lid on the casserole while it's sweating. Just check every now and again to make sure it's not sticking. But they just need to start to soften, and you don't want them to get any colour on them. Now the wine, this was, pretty cheap, £4.25 from Tesco. And there are those who would insist that you should use really good quality wine, and I'm not one of them. Oh, it's actually fine. A little bit acidic. Oh, actually soft and smooth, with aromas of dark plum complemented by raspberry and cherry flavours. Yeah, that's what I meant. Now I'm going to add the bacon and the minced meat and stir them around, get them all coated, break up all the mince and try and get that all, well, not browned. It's more grey, but get rid of all the redness from it. And you can turn up the heat a little bit while you're cooking the meat. Meanwhile, open your can of tomatoes. Now, when you can't see any redness on the meat, it's time to add the wine. Let that bubble away and reduce, and then we'll add the tomatoes. Add half of the stock and we'll save the rest until later just to top it up as it starts to reduce. And the tomato puree, and mix those all together, and then add the oregano, the basil, the salt and pepper, and the bay leaf that I forgot to tell you about earlier. Now the meat sauce needs to cook for 3 hours. Yes, it does. I know I had previously indicated that you can do it in 30 minutes, and you can, kind of, but it takes 3 hours to really develop that amazing, deep flavour that we're after. So you can do that either in a low oven or on very low heat on the stove top, or you could use your slow cooker, but you'd probably then need, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours to really get it going. The meat sauce has had 2¼ hours, so I'm going to take the lid off, and you can see there's plenty of liquid in there. I haven't added the other half of the stock. I don't think I will. I want most of that liquid to evaporate because the meat sauce in a lasagna is supposed to be quite dry. I know most Brits like a lot of gravy and sauciness. I know I do. But to make a lasagna that will stand up like a little tower of food rather than splodge across the whole plate, you need it to be quite dry. I'll leave the lid off now and just keep an eye on it as it boils down. Meanwhile, we'll make the other sauce, the white cheesy bechamel sauce. Ingredients for the cheesy sauce: I've got half a litre of milk, I've got a ball of mozzarella, I've got 100 grams of parmesan, actually grana padano, because it's cheaper, 100 grams of cheddar, because I like it, a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, or any kind of mustard that you prefer, 30 grams of butter, and the same amount of flour, probably 9 sheets of lasagna, and half an onion. This is completely optional, but I like to infuse half an onion into my milk to give it a more umami flavour. So I'll just do that first. So I'll pop this in the microwave for a couple of minutes just to get it warm, and then let it stand for 5 or 10 more minutes. The parmesan and the cheddar, you don't have to use a mixture of cheese. It's just I didn't have a lot of grana padano left, so a bit of cheddar to supplement it, but it's entirely up to you. They need to be grated, and I've worn myself out from grating that carrot earlier, so I'm using a food processor. Mr. Lazy is in the building. To make the white sauce, you want a saucepan, you want to melt the butter in it on medium-low heat. And when it's melted, mix in the flour and mix it to a nice smooth paste. And then you can add about half the milk and mix that in so you get a nice smooth mixture, and then mix in the rest of the milk. And you can mix in a teaspoon of mustard, and then the cheese. And when that's melted and the whole thing's nice and thick and gloopy, give it a taste, add salt if needed. And you can also add a teaspoon of dried oregano if you like, and then set it aside to cool. Now we have to deal with the lasagna sheets. I'm going to bake the lasagna in the air fryer, not the main oven, which means I'm kind of restricted to this as a container because nothing bigger that I have will fit in. So you'll notice it's got curved corners, and the sheets of lasagna do not. And if you try and snap the corners off, you can't get it very accurately, and most of the time the whole sheet will shatter. Ooh, try saying that when you're drunk. So what I'm going to do is soak them in warm water to make them a little bit floppy, and then I can cut them more easily. And I need 8 sheets to do 3 layers of lasagna in there. I know because I've done it before. I'm trying to get some water between them so they don't stick together. Alright, the lasagna is a little bit floppy, so I'm going to dry it on kitchen paper. Okay, assembly time. I want to just trim the corners off. And we'll just put a thin layer of the meat sauce in the bottom of the container, and then a layer of pasta. Now, more meat, and a layer of cheese sauce. Another layer of pasta. I'll do it in the opposite direction this time. And then more meat. And actually this will be the last meat layer, so all of this goes in. I was wrong about my 8 sheets of lasagna. I think what I'd done before was a different size. These are a bit bigger, so I'm only going to need 6. Hey ho! Final layer of pasta and as much of this cheese sauce as we can get in because we're kind of slightly running out of space. Okay, there it is. So now it needs baking. I'm doing it in my air fryer, so I want that heated to 180 degrees Celsius because it's the same as a fan oven or convection oven. That would be 200, and that's gas on the screen, I don't know. And we'll give that 30 minutes, and that should do it. Come back later. Okay, I would call that well fired, but I'm sure it's delicious. So now the bad news, it has to cool down for about half an hour, so we can cut it into nice, neat blocks. Okay, here we are with a mountain of lasagna, and I'm ready for this. And I'll tell you right now that mozzarella on the top was a big mistake because it's just turned into a big old crunchy thing that's very hard to cut through. So yeah, shan't be doing that again. Oh wow, I will be doing this again though because it's amazing. That is absolutely fabulous. So it's a bit of a faff, but well worth doing. So thanks for watching and see you next time.